Hello everybody, welcome back to Language, Litigation, and Integration. My name is Brad, your host. We discover current events, but the primary function of this lecture series, or really discussion series, is to document the ongoing criminal activity being perpetrated against me. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution gives you a right to your writings and discoveries. If you look right here on this channel, From Rhythm to Algorithm is an almost complete demonstration of analysis. And I say almost because it's not entirely done, but I've demonstrated analysis completely before. And if you've heard those words and think you understood what I just said, you haven't. And so regardless, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you of the science. It is my constitutional right to those writings and discoveries. That right is clearly violated. It is my constitutional right, pursuant to the Fifth Amendment, for just compensation for private property used for public use. My property has been distributed amongst the academic circles, amongst a lot of professional circles, and amongst the law enforcement agencies for the better part of a decade now. And so that is the primary function. During that time, I've faced grave bodily harm. I have faced every bit of property I've ever attempted to create to be destroyed. Like I said, my rights are violated, which is so profound that the average person cannot understand what that is like. To any extent at all, and I do it alone. I'm not in some sort of group. I have nobody that really understands what's going on. I was born a synesthetic savant, which is the verbiage people will hear out in the public discourse, but when you're different, neurodivergent, genuinely, people just don't know what the fuck's going on. So my educational needs have been literally violated my entire life to the point of profound and extensive torture. Sounds direct, but it's true. I mean, it's just what has happened in my life experience. And like I said, a complete demonstration of analysis contains more mathematical proofing than literally every single person that's walked on this planet before. But again, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the science. You can go watch that yourself. It is my legal right to those discoveries. Restriction of those rights, like I said, has caused me grave bodily harm. It has destroyed my life, my property, my reputation, my relationship with my parents' family. It's destroyed my life entirely and completely. So we cover current events with an emphasis. Again, I know it's kind of a lengthy intro, but it is the predominant thing that has ruined my life. And again, my parents are in their late 60s. And so I'm just over here wondering how people out there with tens of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people directly aware of my work, with direct legal obligations, with families of their own, how do you raise children and do this to another person is beyond me. But I can't speak freely. I can't speak with authority and with certainty about certain things, again, about being tortured. And so I continue to emphasize that. I keep the discussion here as YouTube compliant as possible so I can continue to do my work. All I've continued to ask for is asylum, a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and work. That is something that I've never experienced. I've never experienced safety. I've definitely never experienced happiness. That's not to say I'm some over sad sack person. It's just, again, you can't experience happiness if you don't feel safe, and you can't feel safe if you don't have constitutional rights. It's true torture. No one seems to care. With that being said, continuing on with our talking points. Trump makes a historic first by attending Supreme Court hearings on birthright citizenship. Barely makes it through the opening arguments, and then storms out. And so we're supposed to have this separation of powers, our three branches of government, but in reality you have groups, and you have people in groups. And those people in groups are regulated by the insecurity of that group. This group is the Republican Party, so if it sounds like bald eagle screeching, talking about how we don't like immigrants, talking about how we love the economy and the Constitution, that's great. That's the Republicans. But remember, it's all talk. Do they actually do any of those things? Absolutely not. I just finished with a complete citation of the Constitution. And that shit is a joke. Again, I live in the jurisdiction of Michael DeWine, Andrew Ginther, within the continental United States of Donald Trump, and I've been citing directly the Constitution for the better part of 10 years. Again, at grave bodily harm, at destruction of property and family, no one cares. And so birthright citizenship is one of, I'm not for or against it. It's one of those things where I have no real opinion. Again, immigration without crime is not a high priority to me. Any crime prosecution, major crimes, citizen or not citizen are high priority. Deportation for illegal immigrants committing crimes would be a moderate to high priority, but just crime in general. And so it would be one of those things where if you're an illegal immigrant and you were involved in committing a crime, your punishment would be either, again, more, I don't want to say more severe, it would just be deportation. If it was a citizen with a severe crime, it would be appropriate proportion of administering the law for punishment. But overall, like if you could just go somewhere and be born, and so like there's this argument, well, it's the 14th Amendment, but just in general legal principle, what do I think about being born somewhere to get citizenship? I would say moderately against it. Again, just for, baby tourism, you just go get, I'm talking just totally in general, my initial what's going on. But if you just go to another country just to be born there, it gamifies things to me, where it's just like, I want to give my kid a better life, which everyone wants to do. But then again, like I said, illegal immigration without crime being committed is a super low or not a priority at all in terms of prosecution, or this is a crime we should care about. Because anybody in a turmoil home country is going to try to get away. They're going to try to have a better life for their family. That's totally understandable. As a governor, as somebody administering law, it's like, okay, you get a lot of comments for the Somali population out of Minnesota. In Columbus, Ohio, I think Columbus has the second largest Somali population. But is it, again, a bunch of illegal immigrants coming over to commit fraud? Again, any sort of crime, again, any crime is any crime. And you just, I guess, you have the added benefit, I don't even know if it's a benefit, but just added option of deportation if it's not a citizen. But again, a citizen's supposed to have, wait for it, constitutional rights. And when you see intelligence agencies move in next door to you for years, destroy your health, life, and property, and then you get on YouTube and you get on CNBC and everyone's just sitting there talking about it, laughing like, ha, 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 we know Brad's smart. It's like, I've lived my every day of my life. I know what my capacity is. Can you guys treat me with dignity or respect just as like a human being? Can you do what's legally obligated of you? No. I still have a clip of Carl Cantanilla chuckling, ho, 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 they're good at their jobs. Again, talking about this intelligence community, which again, the amount of science that I've put on the internet, I had all of that shit done before I was literally 7 years old. And so, well, again, I still have to make a whole other episode, but you guys are kind of behind, and I knew that. And I knew you can't interact. What I actually do, Brad, this guy right here, I fly under the radar, and I'm talking about the radars the public doesn't know exists. And so you cannot process my thought because I'm not thinking. There's no resistance. So your little signal amplification things don't work because nothing's registering, because I've reached fundamental synchronicity with the physical world around me. And I knew that before you guys started to interact with me. So it was like, we weren't sure, we're going to try to figure this out. It's like, you guys, my emotional intelligence is profoundly more than my analytical capacity. And I didn't realize every other person didn't solve all of science as like a starter kit, like a starter pack to do life. And so, get into more on that, but not the purpose here. It's just the purpose here. Birthright citizenship. I was born here. I was a citizen here. I have no rights whatsoever. So the Constitution's a fucking joke, as it's always been and as it will continue to be. Again, as long as this heinously disgusting administration is in power, and I say that with no likeness, with no legitimacy to the Democratic Party or to the Republican Party. Politicians are jokes. There was no adults in the room besides myself personally. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, again, the people these videos are made for, not the average YouTuber. And so the administration's an absolute abysmal joke. Again, Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Michael DeWine. If you guys want to learn how to be a man, I'm happy to give you some free lessons. Again, I make these videos. It's a little tutorial. You guys can learn something. I could make it more appropriate for your education level. Put some coloring pictures in there. Maybe a little like word search or something. Keep it spicy and spunky for you old folks. It's probably been a while since Governor DeWine's read a book, hasn't it, Michael? I know, buddy. You probably have like that reader assist, like Life Alert, send you a free pair of reading glasses, make the font size 120 for you so you can see it. Those are just things I can help you guys out with. I can make even like the coloring pictures with like big lines so you guys can color in. Because you guys don't seem to get the Constitution. It's not like a negotiable thing. And again, as a commander-in-chief, as a governor, and then you just see one of your own citizens and then you just kind of say, oh, Brad doesn't count, just like my whole life. Again, Brad never counts. But we have Pam Bondi. She is officially out as our Attorney General, weeks before being deposed on the handling of the Epstein files. And so, not even a day into this interim appointment, we have Todd Blanche. He's the acting attorney general. He was the deputy attorney general, and he is a Trump cuck. Excuse me. And so he says, we should just move on from the Epstein files. Nothing going forward should contain them at all. Again, illegal immigration without crime. Fucking pedophilia. Wow. Like, I'm not even sure if I'm in the frame anymore of priority. Wow. Yeah. Because again, pedophilia is one of those crimes that I can't address in any sort of judicial, commander-in-chief, patriarch type of a thing, because it would just be something along the lines of, where's the capital punishment and why is it taking so long? Or frankly, why it should take, it should be really slow, actually, and slow down the clock a little bit. Time dilation, Albert Einstein. Smart guy, real smart guy. So obviously more atrocious behavior. Donald Trump is going to have a hissy fit. He's going to wah, 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 wah. And then he's going to form his little Avenger team of fraud, racketeering, conspiracy. We'll call it the RICO super team. And then once again, there's no honor amongst thieves. Once you go against the sentiment of the group, you will get ousted. And so we have to make sure that Donald Trump's pedophilia, when he's grabbing those 14-year-olds right on the pussy in those, beauty pageants that he was allowed to go behind the scenes, just see all those naked girls. Because as a grown-ass man with real sex appeal and with real swagger and with real suave, Donald, you need to prey on 14-year-old girls. That makes sense for you and your freak show fucking friends, dude. Again, if you need any direction on how to be a man, you're welcome. You're welcome to reach out, guy. And so there was some rumors hitting the rumor mill. Who's next up for the Attorney General? Because again, the Supreme Court, in addition to the birthright citizenship, the entire conversation of precedent is proven illegitimate. Right? Words are naturally defined. You don't say, common law was what this judge decided. Common law is what everyone knows is right. And so you guys don't even historically understand what common law is versus statute. And then on top of that, you think this whole precedent game is this, it's the game of jurisprudence. We're going to sit here and say what words mean and have this, great progress of precedent set by the Supreme Court of the land after it goes to the 69th district. It's like, no, words are naturally defined, and refusing to do that is just, again, you're saying 1 + 1 = 3, and you're doing it with people's freedoms and lives and laws. And that's beyond wrong. Yeah, it's definitely a bad thing. But on the rumor mill for the next up for the Attorney General, if the law was real, would have been Lee Zeldin. And that was on Fox News. But I didn't hear that name come back up, and this Todd Blanche guy is out there saying, nope, we don't need to focus. Just, the times Donald was grabbing those girls on the pussy. We just need to overlook that because pedophilia is acceptable in our society. Obviously fucking not. But Pam, she's getting a move. She's moved to the private sector because, again, all of these hardworking Americans who've never worked hard and they just get privilege and nepotism and then friends and then, and more jobs. Awesome stuff. Trump, and I heard some rumor, again, rumor meaning public news disclosures, Trump was dissatisfied with the lack of prosecutions of his adversaries. Because, again, Trump did not instigate a insurrection. But is he a convicted felon? Yes. Is he behaving like a president, commander-in-chief in any way with Iran? No. Did he then pardon? So he didn't. Again, I'm a stickler. A lot of people say Trump caused the January 6th insurrection. It was an insurrection. It was sedition, as we've covered. It was not caused by Trump. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. But what Trump was responsible for was the pardoning. And so now we have a commander-in-chief directly saying, hey, the law doesn't matter at all. And it doesn't, because, well, again, it's just whatever the sentiment of the group wants. Insecurity is not consistent, and it just blows in the wind, whatever way the Harry Ball theorem's blowing that day. And so, but we need to prosecute more of his adversaries. While we're pardoning the criminals, while we're pardoning the Honduran president, but we're stealing the Venezuelan one. Just a lot of adherence to principle, morals, character, integrity, and law. Most importantly, the law. So that's good stuff. We had, again, more excitement within our administration. Kristi Noem, the former Department of Homeland Security Secretary, loves her husband's cross-dressing activities. We will call Byron Noem Mega Boobs. Because, well, go check out the pictures. Pretty exciting stuff. And so Christy was just, again, I feel for her. I mean, the family was blindsided. Daddy Byron likes to dance around with big jiggling juggalo boobies. That's just I mean, who could have thunk it? I mean, Iger's out at Disney, which is just, I can't believe who could even consider Chapek, like, seriously, who's going to fill Iger's shoes? And, like, who's going to fill Byron Noem's boobs? I mean, like, it's just the same kind of thing. What are you going to do? And so Byron's out there seeking, and I quote, bimbofication from adult fetish models online. Wow. And Noem had an affair with the top aide Corey Lewandowski. Or at least it was heavily rumored, and it seems to be an open secret within Washington. So we're going to play a game. We're going to play a game. Now, anytime we criticize a politician, we're going to play Would We Smash. Just being honest. Would we Christy Noem? Again, on a personal level, the more sophisticated women, again, I'm on the opposite side. We like a little higher, a little older women. And not older women, but just like, you know. So would I Christy Noem? Probably. I saw the South Park characterization. That was a little off-putting, but just being honest. I mean, you know. So I figure with all this political tension, everyone in the political circle, we just go around the circle. If you're criticizing somebody that you would smash, you just put it out there. So I probably would. Granted, give me a second. The South Dakotan accent is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. So that might be a little off-putting. But if Christy's back there throwing it back for Corey, why not Bradley? I don't know. I'm just, again, not my business, just putting it out there. But that was really devastating to the family overall. Moving on, we look to our great war commander, again, Cash is in Valhalla right now with Thor, and Pete Hegseth, again, all of Reddit's just clowning. It's Keg's breath. Haha, Zinger got him. Pete Keg's breath. You got him, dude. But Pete Hegseth asks Army Chief of Staff General Randy George to step down. A suggested forced early retirement, but I quote, wants someone who will implement, or this is a quote from something, but wants someone who will implement Trump's and Hegseth's vision for the Army. What's the vision for the Army? Is it like one of those, again, the F-35 that was shot down, the helicopter that was just shot down, the other jet that was shot down? I thought Iran had no more air defenses. I thought they were stoned or bombed back to the Stone Ages, Pete. What's going on, bro? Come on, dude, just shotgun some beers with Cash Patel and the USAA hockey team. Oh, and don't forget one more zinger joke about the women's hockey team, because they're not citizens. I mean, let's be honest. What's the amendment that... I actually do forget. What's one is women's right to vote? I think we can all agree we just kind of, get rid of that one. But Pete Hegseth, and I think Cash Patel should shotgun some beers before each Department of War's YouTube channel is really, really picking up. But I just think that would be some good protocol. Some beers with the boys before any sort of commander-in-chief, joint chief of staff meeting. So we're just kind of getting rid of the generals. But we also had some other ones released. General David Hodney. He was part of Transformation and Training. And General William Green. The Army Chaplain Corps. Chaplains? What the fuck is that? You just pray and stuff? Because again, when it comes to war, I think we can channel of the great scholar, the great sage, the great sensei, Ice Cube. If you scared motherfucker, go to church. And so I guess we need some chaplains. But I don't know how you're at war and be like, oh, I'm scared. That guy's got a 30-06. Hopefully, I'm going to pray now. But Pete Hegseth is, again, transforming the Army from what great experience? We're kind of waiting for that one. But he's made another move. Hegseth lifts the ban on service members carrying personal firearms on base. This one struck me as strange. The sentiment around this was seeming like, the suicide rate's going to tick up. And it's like, if you really want to off yourself and you're part of the armed forces, I don't feel like it's going to be that hard to find firearms around. And so I'm for, again, I don't know why this would not be a thing. I don't really know why you couldn't just carry government-issued firearm on base. I don't... Again, this is just one of those things where it's just like, I would assume you could have... I would have assumed you could have already carried a personal firearm. I'm not sure what the difference between carrying a personal and a government-issued one is, if that's like not allowed or something. If you're mentally unstable enough to where it's a concern where it's like, oh, service members can't have firearms, or again, anybody, any maturity level, again, like Americans have this fascination like a firearm is the only lethal weapon that exists. And then the intention to, one, defend yourself is directly 180 from like offense, aggressive, going and commit a crime, or even like self-harm. And so yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. Nothing really more to say. And so that is kind of it for our great updates on our great leadership here in the United States, where again, there are no constitutional rights and everything is a fucking joke. And so now we got some more current events that I just like to talk about, anything that catches my eye. And so, if you see my email, it is bboas1017, and so that is part of the Gucci Mane, the Brick Squad Monopoly record label. I'm an honorary signee without any signatures or anything. But recently, it seemed that's not too hot of a contract to be a part of. So we had Pooh Shiesty, accused of kidnapping and robbing Gucci Mane. That was on January 10th, 2026. Shiesty and Big 30 robbed several associates at gunpoint. 8 out of 9 suspects were arrested in Dallas, Texas. And Shiesty forced a signed contract release because, well, I guess it wasn't a great contract. So maybe Gucci Mane, Mr. Roderick, is not constructing our contracts in a fair manner. Or at least Mr. Shiesty did not think so. And so Shiesty was just released 6 months prior, and he basically invites people to the studio meeting, and then they have a quote-unquote takeover, and that's like a sociological phenomenon going around, a takeover, a teen takeover, everyone's taking stuff over. But one guy blocks the door, and then they rob everybody, so it's also a kidnapping. What do I think about that legally? Yeah, I mean, I guess. That was a legal thing that came up with this. So I guess, yeah. Just, again, forced not allowing someone to be where they want to be, I guess would be a kidnapping to any extent. I don't know, but that was pretty crazy over the 1017 Monopoly, Brick Squad Monopoly label. We have another fun time in Seattle. Just kind of, hey, making your way to work, maybe getting some Starbucks, getting a macchiato, maybe a Frappuccino, who knows? You're just waiting by the subway, and then Alicio Melendez sneaks up behind you. What is Alicio going to do? Maybe he wants a sip of your macchiato, or he's going to shove you in front of a train. And so Alicio Melendez faces attempted murder charges after trying to shove a man in front of a train. Previously found not competent to stand trial in 2019 for domestic violence case. Immediately and comprehensively, what do I think makes you not competent to stand trial? Like literally being dead, that would be 1. Being in a coma, that would be 2. Because unless it's, any sort of insanity to plea, psychosis to plea. I'm trying to think of anything that would cause me as a judge to say you are not competent to stand trial. It would literally be like not conscious. And so when that has come up legally, that has never really made much sense to me. Regardless, watch your back. Again, you can't be caught slipping at the gas station, whether you're in Iraq or on Livingston Avenue here in Columbus, or you can't be caught slipping at the freaking subway station. Alicio might sneak up and get you. We have 2 more talking points today. We're going to make sure our camera's still rolling. And so for our next story, we have the golf legend, Tiger Woods, getting ready for the Masters, maybe popping a little couple hydrocodones before practice. Who knows? But Tiger Woods, as you've seen, rolled his truck, hit another truck. The body cam footage was released, and he was very important because he just got off the phone. Thought we were done with our administration, but Tiger, important person in our society, again, plays with balls all day. Sounds gay. But he just got off the phone with the president. Pretty important person, big stuff. Again, where's the law? This whole edifice called the United States, where's the Constitution? Oh, that's right, it doesn't exist. And so he was just talking to the president, just catching up, just how's around a golf going. Donald's over there shooting. Like I said, I don't think Donald's breaking 100. Tiger's definitely breaking 100. And so they were just catching up on on their swing, reading some greens, the basics, catching up in the clubhouse. So you can see some sobriety tests being given. And then they found, so the order of this progression was, I wasn't sure when they found these hydrocodone pills. Because again, like I said, I know my ABCs and I know my ACABs as a judge, as a attorney general, as anything legal. I have to say fuck cops at this point in time. Because the overall behavior, training, everything is just atrocious. And so when you support the law and you see atrocious behavior, you can't support the atrocious behavior. Because not supporting the law has just destroyed my entire life. Again, shout out to Chief of Police Elaine Bryant. Shout out to Chief of Police Dan Gilbert. Shout out to Chief of Police Gary Lewis Jr. Again, go look at the Constitution. Still waiting for that. Oh, that's right. We're going to deny that, and then no one's going to care. Some stuff, just deny my family's right. Again, it's the weirdest thing being the most accomplished scientist. I make jokes to keep this lighthearted. Not really lighthearted, just so my tone doesn't sound super aggressive. Because when you talk about serious things, I just feel like I'm going to get dinged on YouTube again for documenting crime, for historical documentation of profound and extensive illegal activity. But for the actual procedure, again, that is my overall approach to what I see about law enforcement behavior, but not all interactions are going to be terrible, disgusting shit. And so for the current time, that is definitely my position. And so point being is I'm against officer interpretation of you seem inebriated. From watching the body cam footage, this seems to be a reasonable assessment from the people. In general, I'm still just, meaning the officers, I'm still just against officers interpreting, saying, yep, from my assessment, you're inebriated. At this point, I'm still just categorically against that. You give the most pathetic, incompetent people, again, literally 4 fucking months of summer camp. They get their first gun, they get a badge, they have their union rep, they're all excited, or not even excited, but they're just like, they get slightly offended and they just behave like a person. But they have a gun and a badge and there's no recourse for most of their actions. And so the point being is, as against cops' behavior that I've documented, experienced, seen, and just in general. With that being said, obviously not everything is going to be some sort of atrocious behavior by the cops. And so I don't know when the hydrocodone pills presence would be pretty much, to me, this is like, again, it'd be like possession of any, because it's prescribed by a doctor, it doesn't matter. Again, you get prescribed a medicine and it says, only use or don't operate heavy machinery until you know how this medicine will affect you. Because that's the more, again, this responsibility, individual responsibility has to be forefront. Because then how do you test for, again, sleep deprivation? We're all in agreement that people should not be operating motorized vehicles or any vehicle on a public transportation way where you can affect somebody else's rights inebriated or in a way where you can't function safely. But then again, if you take a cannabis edible and you have it in your bloodstream, if you're a regular user and you have it in your bloodstream, it's not inebriation. And so this, I would prosecute and personally and legally want everyone that's, again, would be reckless endangerment is the overarching legal principle. What causes you to be endangering others while operating a vehicle, whether it's a drug, some sort of drug or some sort of sleep deprivation or some sort of distracted driving, it all equates to the same consequence. And so how do you enforce that? It's a really messy area in law. Again, just talking about anything that comes to mind. But the hydrocodone in this situation where Tiger specifically has been, again, had previous documented cases of being charged. Again, the legal system is just unsalvageable. I mean, not like you're going to have to throw it away and start over. Again, just people, all systems are made of people, and as long as people are this hypocritical, nothing can fucking change. It's not possible. Presence of the hydrocodone pills would have been reason for arrest, in my opinion. The sobriety test, frankly, all of that lead up to say I think they were administrative reasonably. I think this, from what I could tell from the body cam footage, this was a good arrest. And so, but again, I'm not trying to, it's not, I don't see ACAB all of the time. It's just like the vast, I mean, it's just, again, I am sitting here without constitutional rights, and I can name 3 chief of police right here in jurisdictions that have obligations to do something they don't. And then I've been swatted. I mean, just every bit of fucking cop is just failure to me. This interaction seemed fine. But no drinking. He requested a breathalyzer, refused the urinary analysis. And so again, the refusal to me is not a actually, I do. I want to say that's like, again, would that be a reason to arrest somebody? If they refused, why would you refuse urinary analysis? But see, that's the thing, is like, I just argued that point. It's like, you can have urinary analysis, and you know definitively if it comes back with this, or this, you're going to be guilty, which you shouldn't be. I mean, this is implementing, and again, what constitutes as reckless endangerment, because it can come from so many different things. And again, you can't take a blood test for sleep deprivation. And so it's just like one of those things where we have to emphasize practically personal responsibility over everything. This seemed like a fine interaction, all things considered. And so our final story talking point is, once again, we are over into the world of weird Eric Weinstein. So if you're still with me, and you're some random person on YouTube, which effectively there's nobody here, you can look at Eric Weinstein. Type on Big Think. There's a Big Think YouTube channel. Eric Weinstein, this is back in 2017. And so I had never have heard of Eric Weinstein. I just get on YouTube one day, and here's this guy talking about my shit, like my direct research 10 years ago. And so that's my only introduction to Eric Weinstein. He then personally responded to me on LinkedIn. Because he wants to open it, and then he just doesn't respond, and Eric Weinstein needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. Brett Weinstein needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. Brian Keating needs to go to the jail for the rest of his life. Sean Carroll needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. David Eisenbud, Ed Witten, everybody that we've covered, that is non-negotiable. If you do not have an immediate practical relevance to functional things, getting things done in society, and you've been involved in suppressing science, you need to go to prison for the rest of your life. You need to be shunned out of society, criminally trespassed from every private business. Any functional step that can be taken to get you fucking people the fuck out needs to happen. But regardless, Eric Weinstein continues to promote fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy at such a direct, intimate level, because guess what? Eric went to Harvard. Eric's not in the system. He bucks the system because he works as a money manager for Peter Thiel. We'll bring that back up because that's relevant to our talking point today. And so, unfortunately, I came across Eric again on Inner Cosmos with David Eagleman, a video published on February 24th, 2026. Do breakthroughs require rule breakers? And so I just kind of jumped around the verbiage or the timestamps, and I picked up this video around the 58th minute. And so, no, to answer that question, science doesn't need rule breakers. Science needs people that are competent, people that can do shit. That is the number one thing you need to be able to do. And so I can't emphasize enough, I am not a rule breaker. I've had to survive in my life. That is true. The rules are not enforced we don't have a society. There was no society. Zero, end of story. And so, but I can't push back against this trailblazer, this rule breaker, this cowboy scientist mentality. Nope. I went to mathematics and physics class, raised my hand, showed up to office hours and said, I can prove this shit wrong and it doesn't make any sense. And people said, go fuck yourself. So I did as everything by the book as you could. This society just doesn't function because, again, people project their insecurities. They call them values. They don't actually have those behaviors. Work hard, go to school, think for yourself. And in reality, everybody is just chasing a paycheck because they play games until they're about 21. Then you're immediately thrust into the world where you need to make money, or at 18 or sooner. And then people just learn to compete over nothing. And so now the stakes are actual careers and actual life quality. And so it just smiles and waves out front, and then people clamoring all over each other to get one foot in front of the next. Everybody missing the forest for the trees. And it's destroyed my life and my health. And so no, you don't need rule breakers to have progress in science. You need progress in science to have progress in science, and you need to tell the truth about the law. But Eric continues on. He's talking about the P versus NP, which has been completely and entirely solved. He talks about the Riemann hypothesis, which has been completely and entirely solved. And as you've seen from my research, again, every step so far, again, continues to be profoundly trivial. I think we've crossed the line of, again, is the Riemann hypothesis, again, the largest scale mathematical structure you guys have attempted to say, let's look at, is the Lagrange program, which says, what is mathematics effectively? Solve the whole thing, it's thematics. I mean, like, the logical structure that we're exhausting is all of logic. The boundary of physics to linguistics directly, immediately. And so those problems specifically have been solved, but Eric is putting forth that, we need a couple zeros on the back of those problems. Again, you guys are so fucking stupid, you don't even know how to structure a good proof. Because again, like, the construction of the proof is trivial to me, not just the knowledge. And that's his, all of the kids that get A's on all of the tests, they all apply to Harvard. The people that they think are good in there, they go to school and they go to undergrad, and then they kind of get introduced to proof. Like, if you've never been introduced to mathematical proof at all, you've not even even remotely done anything relevant to math ever. And so you'll see a big jump of people that get the, what does SAT go up to, 1600, whatever the highest, like, standardized test scores. The upper level of intelligences are just so hilariously different. And then what you go to school, it was a joke when I was a kid. I mean, it's just never been anything. But point being is like, what they've identified as, like, the biggest, open problem in number theory, the Riemann hypothesis. It's just like, none of these problems are even anything in comparison to the overall derivation and proofing that I've presented. But Eric thinks you should get more money. I think, again, I am not joking, exaggerating in any capacity. I want to eat properly, I want to sleep properly, and I want to be able to work. And I can do all of those things on about $40,000 a year. And so again, you might be scratching your head and say, like, a PhD student at a lot of universities get like $25,000 to $35,000. And I'm like, yep. And so Eric thinks you need millions of dollars to do math. Nope, not even, you don't really need anything. You just need to not die. At least that's what I need to do. But then again, I don't have any law, so I can't disseminate scientific information. But Eric gets to go, that fat fuck gets to go around lying, cheating, and stealing. And so I can't emphasize enough, his son Zev Weinstein, by his own merit, went onto a podcast, Lex Friedman, and started talking about mathematical proofing. And we started with definitions. Theft of intellectual property, racketeering, conspiracy, throw him in jail, Zev, forever. Fuck that piece of shit. It's crime. He's an adult, he can take responsibility for his own actions. And again, I will genuinely grant clemency, amnesty, leniency to anybody that has a practical, relevant role in life. Academics, anybody that would constitute as a theoretical physicist, a mathematician, your job is to say, hey, go watch Brad's videos. It's legally obligated, and it's an empirical scientific fact. It's the only complete demonstration of analysis ever done. It's the derivation of speciality. And in about a week or so, the derivation of sensorality will be completed, I think. Again, it's inevitable if I don't die, clearly. And we've solved everything. I mean, we're just tidying shit up. But no, so it's just weird. Again, we continue on with this fraud. And to all of the people that have made art, music, movies, anything behind closed doors about me, all you've done is admitted to committing racketeering and fraud. Destroying that property or that production, that creation at this point is destruction of historical evidence. I'm going to fuck this society, and there's nothing you're going to do about it besides continue to ignore me. Because I've gotten the derivation out. I've played this little bullshit game. But the crimes that have been committed are so profoundly severe, I don't in any way, shape, or form care what happens to me. I'm never going to live a day of my life. I've never lived a day up until today. Again, the United States Constitution remains a joke. The people in the service members, or in the service corps, you serve nothing. You absolutely serve nothing. And any fraudulent statement about history will be prosecuted entirely, fully, no leniency, no forgiveness, no nothing. But Eric gets all flustered, he gets all riled up, and Eric says, you will not lie to scientists. You will not be able to expect us to lie. As if Eric is a scientist. Eric is a self-conflicted fucking weirdo that steals from me personally. All of his personal growth is from my realization personally. It is evidenced by his entire life progression. His working for Peter Thiel, as we've talked about, that dude's a total weirdo. Eric Weinstein's a total fucking weirdo. And they think it's normal to take to about your 50 to mature to a level that a 14-year-old would in a society that made any fucking sense. So everybody is eternally 14, high school never ends, and Eric was, he went to Harvard, and he broke out of the system, and he's a money manager. Holy cow. And then he talks like he's the scientist. He is every bit of the lying sack of shit he thinks he's not. And I can't, Eric's not a man, and I cannot speak to that little bitch over a fucking camera because I have to put this on YouTube. Hide behind your little screen, Eric. Go run to Peter, get another paycheck because you can't make your own money. You can't innovate, you can't do math, you can't do physics. You can just sit around people like Lex Friedman and feel smart. What a great guy you are, brother. Again, throw Zev Weinstein in jail for the rest of his life for fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy. There are absolutely non-negotiables on that. And so, Eric, you are not a scientist, you are a fraud. You are a conspirator. That's a fact. But again, he's talking about this in the context of COVID. The Weinstein brothers and their weird fucking obsession with COVID. He's talking about, we need financial independence from the approval of the national health system, or specifically Anthony Fauci. The procedural things that happened throughout COVID were completely fine, legally, biologically. But again, you're seeing a situation where a pathetic fuck is being told, a boomer, I don't even know if Eric's a boomer, but an older generation being told, you can't do something. And it's just like the same MAGA Republicans that's saying, freedom, freedom, freedom. This is because, again, Eric's, the moderate left or whatever the fuck he self-identifies as. And so it's like, we're the scientists, you're not going to lie to us. And we have the ability to reason that, mRNA vaccines are different. This great conspiracy from Anthony Fauci, right? These people are the ones committing conspiracy and fraud against science. Eric, what was that Big Think video? What was it? How is that not conspiracy fraud against science? Oh, but it doesn't count, right? Because it's Brad's science. My entire life has been Brad's life doesn't matter. All of the pathetic fucking loser, goofy idiots from high school whining and bitching in their learned helpless patheticness, acting like they're actually different. Like I have never been able to socialize. My intellectual awareness is literally imperceptible to other people. And so no, Eric, you're not a scientist. The things, again, all of you are committing fraud through this whole time. But he relates this to the special access, unacknowledged access programs. And again, because he's like trying to relate this shit to like the UFO, like, was this an unacknowledged special access program and it linked out the Chinese? The Chinese got one of those pig viruses. And so I'm going to go out on a limb and say like 99.9999% chance no. Then Eric is just, again, trying to assimilate and integrate this big part of science that he's denied his whole life, that humanity is not the center of the universe, because in Eric's head, he was going to be the next big math guy at Harvard, and he was going to be the guy, geometric unity, to replace Albert Einstein. And so Eric's just this big conflicted ball of hypocrisy. But he can talk with words a little bit better than, I can't use the R word again, great scholars like Lex Friedman, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, Eric's smart. Dude's an absolute clown, an absolute joke, not a scientist in any capacity. It's hilarious. You can literally see him say, I'm not a physicist, and the next interview he's talking about it like he knows all of physics. When literally presented by the community right now, they will say, oh, I don't know what's the base of mathematics. Look at the word, dude. Well, I don't know what to do in physics. What about rhythm? I mean, just directly immediate. But again, I emphasize they use the term cowboy science because at some point I feel like someone's going to be called a renegade, or the title of the Big Think video, a lone genius. I literally went to school, you destroyed my health, my life, and my family because you guys wanted to compete. You were too fucking stupid to literally know what proof is. Shout out to Eric Broughton, shout out to Samir Mather, shout out to Tigray Faraday, shout out to, again, I can't think of any of my other teachers' names. But again, everybody that I was exposed to at Ohio State, throw them in prison. Anyone a part of their family that has gone to one of these schools has committed fraud, racketeering, conspiracy to my estate. Prosecute everybody involved. Again, I do not want operational control. I do not care. I do want the acknowledgement that, again, you guys have you are indebted to me, and there's no way you can pay me in that. I want every fucking penny that I have owed. I live in this society of Americans, hardworking Americans, and again, on my personal direct life, again, Robert Hemphill and Marty Magid, Cario Ballard, the guy I try to run a bar and restaurant with, people treating me like I'm some fucking nobody, man. And so the only thing I want to work is the law and to punish these people that have just again, committed crimes in a way where it's like, yeah, Brad, you don't deserve a family, you don't deserve a career, you don't deserve income, you don't deserve the ability to eat. That is still not a joke or an exaggeration. No one cares. No one gives a shit. But then they go on to talk about the publication game of academia and quote-unquote novel results that are not publishable. Because Eric's just saying, that there's groupthink to academia, which there clearly is. All of this paper mill bullshit is complete fraud. Then you get these quote-unquote, people outside the system, Eric Weinstein and Sabine Hasenfelter. Just throw them in prison. I'm so done dealing with these trashy pieces of shit. They're criminals. Again, they're criminals. They're criminals. I am documenting crime. That is all I am doing. And I don't have a court to talk about it in because there are no rights, there are no laws, and no one gives a fuck about the law. And so, yes, there is academia as this big game. It's this competition. We're all, again, the learned, helpless, pathetic losers who weren't athletic and couldn't play sports, which I don't know why sports are relevant. That's not what a man would do. Let's play games all day. That's adulthood. That's not. But yeah, and so again, all of those people, again, truly, if you're proud of your PhD and less than 5 people have ever read it, you should not have a PhD. Science is not this fucking, we need to, again, Eric even says this garbage, but again, he's just projecting at face value. He even used some verbiage, I didn't even write it down, that was directly from me. Because again, realization is not unique. And if you describe it more specifically, more comprehensively, the verbiage literally physically catches on. In the same way you drop a ball, it's going to fall to the center of mass every time. Not 99.99999%, 100%. And so it's fun watching me spread the fundamental realization of ontology through the species while, again, Eric has, health insurance, a fancy job, a huge income. All of these people have lives. I will never live a day of mine. It's not possible. It's provably not possible. And so novel results are not publishable. Again, correct results are not publishable. You have to say the right, wrong thing to appeal to the other people that are doing the same bullshit. And again, suppressing science kills, maims, and mutilates children all across the world. So again, be proud of your PhD. Your family was all excited. You drank some champagne and you provided no research. Right, there's this feel-good story of you went and you analyzed data and you proved your scientific thinking, and then I raise my hand and say, what the fuck is the practical output of your existence in science? Well, I got a PhD, Brad, what'd you do? I derived literally 5 PhDs worth of mathematics of novel analysis. What I am doing is a process of analysis that nobody else on this planet is aware exists, which is just so fucking past. It's just fucking hilarious. Right. Oh my goodness. And so, yes, there is a publication game in academia. It is atrocious. It is illegal. It has direct, immediate, profound, detrimental consequences, death and suffering globally. True novel results, they need to be correct, right? Correct results need to be published. That's it. We continue on with the conversation, and Eric is talking about better funding for scientists. And I'm just over here scratching my head. The managing partner for a multi-billion-dollar fund is saying you need more funding for science. And I'm not over here saying, he has access to billions of dollars. Ooh, that's a lot. It's not. No, it's not. But it's like, why don't you make your own money, Eric? People want a grant for $100K, $1 million. Go make that shit yourself, you lazy fuck. It's not hard to make $1 million. Who knows, man? Satoshi Nakamoto's out there somewhere. Who could it be? It's definitely not me, but I might know one of his cousins. Again, when I wasn't allowed to go to school, I definitely didn't sell rugs. I definitely didn't do anything illegal. I prayed. I prayed the Hail Mary twice a day instead of once. So I could, like I said, like Ice Cube told me, I was so scared I went to church. And I just kept praying since. Pray for the plug, pray for the plug. Why don't I become the plug? No, of course, again, that would be illegal. I just went to church and prayed. And so making money if you have access to literally the structure of society, and you're over there, and again, he's a managing director. Like, how is Peter Thiel over like, yep, this is the guy I want to manage my fund, and he's over there like, yep, I have no idea how to make any money. That makes sense, but that's about par for the course, again, of just profound hypocrisy everywhere. Life is unlivable. And so I just have LOL. Eric wants the best scientists. Eric wants to save physics first. Again, Eric is a part of this organization where he's committing public fraud to like keep alive this sentiment. It's like, oh, Brad's going to come out of nowhere and solve science. And at this point, I have no expectation again my work will ever be acknowledged. I will be tortured to death in this fuckhole country. But again, physics is completely solved to the point where it's an open secret everywhere. I can show you the videos of Sean Carroll laughing and saying, everybody knows. I can show you the videos of fucking super secret science team moving in next to me. I think we know enough about fundamental physics. Again, back to your little amplification, your signal amplification devices, they can't pick up my literal actual analytical capacity. Because by the times I'm forming words, it is such a reduction in my true personal analytical capacity to completion to articulate anything is renarded, truly. Still, I'm going to do that video tomorrow. I just have other things to focus on. It's literally, I'm producing more content than I can keep up with. Oh yeah, right, to my estate, again, each day that passes, that's more financial damages. Boop, it just keeps accumulating. Boop, boop, boop. I don't care. I don't care. Pay me. If you can't pay me, go to jail. Oh, I don't care. I don't care. No leniency. Fuck everybody. If you do not have a practical social role that, like, again, TSA needs to have employees. Or again, TSA is not even a great, doesn't really do anything. But assuming you're an essential worker, right? Besides the essential workers, if you've committed crime, you go to jail or you lose your job. And the fact that you can lose your job and that be like the worst thing in the world is fucking hilarious. I've never been able to get a job. I don't have rights to a secure employment. I will never be able to buy food. I will never be able to comfortably eat properly, sleep properly, and work. It's a fact. And so Eric makes this appeal. He's like, you know, again, scientists need more money. Again, like he's a scientist and he's in a group with his friends and they're being held back by the great governmental people. I am the only functioning, what you guys would call a theoretician, doing theory building, which is really proofing. And proofing for me is direct physical demonstration. You reduce linguistics to the point where it's physics, but linguistics is physics. And so you just show irreducibility. And we're almost done doing that again, which is the largest, it's the pinnacle of what you could do for analysis. It's complete analysis. So Eric wanting scientists to have vacation homes, again, I emphasize to anybody, I just want enough money to live some aspect to do my work. I have the most prodigious capacity to produce output ever, and I'm not allowed to use it. To the point where Prashant would come up at Grafton Park, just work on your videos, just give me some fucking money. Nope. So again, to the future, no matter how much work I put out, it's 10-to-1 restricted. And so prosecute everybody, sue everybody, every criminal charge, everybody associated, all assets developed during this time of explicit crime, take it all, fuck them all. Everybody has to learn from me. I own education. If you want to learn anything, you're going to be watching these videos, and the power structure will change. I have no expectation that will change in my lifetime. I'm not some political dude, some ideological dude in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually actively against disrupting the overall flow of society. But the people in academic structure, the people in law enforcement that are not necessary, that are not required for day-to-day functions, that are involved in committing this crime, face the severest punishments, and there is nothing you can say or do that will change that. Besides committing more crime and killing me off, which wouldn't surprise me at all. But my work's out there, doesn't really matter. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.